30 male husband asked me, 26 female, to sleep with his friend. He left me saying I cheated and I'm pregnant. My husband and I have 2 kids, ages 2 and 4. We married when I was pregnant with a 4-year-old and have been together just over 5 years total. About 6 months ago, my husband asked me to sleep with another man while he watched. I was not 100% comfortable with it, but he asked a few times and I eventually agreed. He had a couple of rules, like whoever I found had to have a recent and clean STI test, because husband didn't want rubbers used. I was on birth control, and he had to set it all up. And that was the extent of my involvement until the event itself. He found a friend willing to do it. Husband said he was sure he wanted this, and begged me to go through with it. I did, and he left within a week, citing this as his reason. He's now telling anyone who will listen that the friend and I cheated. The friend told the truth, but obviously no one believes that my husband asked his friend to sleep with me. If someone had asked me about it, I've told the truth, but no one believes me either. I've been cut off from my husband's family due to this, and as my husband is not currently in contact with me or the kids have been cut off as well, which is hurting them. Most have just gone silent on me, but the few have reached out have not been kind. It was our youngest child's birthday a few days ago, and we arranged to do something with just family. Grandparents, aunts/uncles, cousins, all from my husband's side, and no one came. My brother ended up dropping by, but that was a surprise, as he wasn't invited as I'm low/no contact with most of my family. So my kids have primarily interacted with their dad's family, and that's the side they're more attached to. It's been about 4.5 to 5 months since the friend, and a month ago I found out I was pregnant. I had plenty of action with my husband both before and after, but the fact I also had slept with a friend, and my only protection has clearly failed, cannot be overlooked. I'm now starting to show. I need to know who the father is. My husband isn't speaking to me, not even to discuss a divorce or the kids, and I don't even know where he's living right now. But if I ask the friend to get tested and my husband finds out, this whole situation becomes significantly worse. There are a couple of aspects I need help with, so I'd be grateful for any help on any of them. 1. What do I do about my husband's family, who the kids adore and really want to speak to? 2. What do I do about my husband who is ignoring our kids? 3. What do I do about the baby? Do I talk to the friend first or my husband? Neither of them? Both? What's the safest way to go about this? Now for the top advice. This honestly sounds like a setup. Like he manipulated the situation to make him look like a victim, so he could abandon his family. My ex did cheat on me, but I still maintained contact with children who aren't even mine. I would get a paternity test and then sue for child support. I would also see about getting a lawyer and filing for divorce and have him served with the papers. It's up to the family to maintain a connection with the kids. If you have family, you may want to get your kids in contact with that family. OP, to add on this, do you have any evidence of him asking this? Screenshots discussing it, etc.? I'd get that stuff all lined up. It does seem like he's framing the situation. Does the jurisdictional event penalize a cheating spouse in a divorce? Have your attorney send an anti-spoliation letter requiring your husband to preserve his phone. Also have his friend sign an affidavit detailing the specifics of the encounter. Sounds like he either was looking for an excuse to leave, or after the high from the event wore off, he was so disgusted with himself that he had to project that energy outward, onto you, in order to preserve his fragile ego. Could be both. All I really got from him was that things were different now. The word tainted was used. He was the only guy I had been with before this, so I think it was coming from a place of regret. The fact that he also abandoned your children tells me that he was looking for an excuse to check out of the family before this even happened. Man, you need legal advice. This is slandering, and the way you phrase it, it makes it sound like he was looking for a way out of the relationship. Go get a lawyer. My brother has recommended a lawyer, but I haven't called yet. I plan to, I just want to talk to my husband first. Talk to your lawyer first. Don't talk to your husband. He has shown to be manipulative. You need outside help. He was going to leave you either way. If you did it, he was going to leave you for cheating. If you hadn't done it, he would have said you didn't love him enough. Take it to court. Get the child support your kids deserve. Force a paternity test on him. In some places, it is his child since you are married. I am sorry that he is abandoning his children. You need to be strong for them. I wouldn't force visitation since the family already showed how cruel they are. If you're still married when the baby is born, then it will automatically be his child legally. But if he's not the father, then the other guy will be able to contest if he wants to get a DNA test. Though I have no idea if he would want to. Next story is titled, My fiance threatened to break up with me if I told her best friend's husband that his wife is cheating on him. I, male 27, have been together with my fiance, female 28, for 12 years, out of which 3 years we have been engaged. I love her a lot, and everything between us has been great. We do encounter problems now and then, but every long-term couples does, to be fair. The problem we are having right now is not so much to do with us directly, but to do with my fiance's best friend. I'll call her Betty in this post. Yesterday while going to work, I stopped at a bakery and got some breakfast. Right across the street, I saw Betty with a guy. First, they were just talking and I didn't think much of it. And honestly, I was busy getting my sandwich. I turned around and they were kissing. I got my phone and took a photo. Not the most ethical thing to do, but I thought the husband might need it. I got home, told my fiancé about it, and also shared a photo with her. She told me to delete the photo and just ignore it. I wasn't comfortable with this, and told her that instead I would tell her best friend's husband, because if it was me in his position, I'd like to know too. Her concern with us was that it would really damage her friendship with Betty, and that's why I should stay out of it. I disagreed, and she told me that if Betty's husband found this out from me, I should consider our relationship over. Later that day, my fiancé apologized to me that she didn't mean the breaking up part, but I really shouldn't do this, even though that would be the right thing to do. I was still a little pissed that she would just throw away a 12-year-old relationship just to hide someone else's cheating. So I told her that I would tell the husband everything, and if she wants to break up over this, I'm fine with that. Definitely did not mean the I'm fine with that part, but I probably just said it out of pettiness/spite. I haven't told the husband yet, but all this has me questioning my fiancé's moral values and how she thinks infidelity is okay. Kinda messed up. It's 8 a.m. right now where I live, and I haven't slept all night thinking about my relationship. She did cut a double down on the breaking up part at the end if I proceeded on telling Betty's husband, so I'm very conflicted right now. How do you guys see the situation? Should I tell him knowing that it might end my relationship? $10 that your fiancé has cheated on you in the past and her best friend covered for her. Oh man, I hope not. But I did suspect that too. Opie's fiancé might be thinking that if Opie ruins her best friend's marriage, she might come for her relationship. Opie needs to do the right thing here, and tell the husband if she wishes to find out why his fiancé had a bizarre reaction to a simple problem. Absolutely. Even if that wasn't the case, she expects her BFF to cover for her when she does cheat. And even then, she's very clear that keeping her BFF secret means more to her than your 12-year relationship. And yes, your values are no longer aligned, if it was ever to begin with, which is very important in a relationship. Make what you will of that info, OP. She clearly knew her friend is cheating. If my boyfriend came home and told me my friend is cheating on her husband, I would probably spend hours talking/dishing about it with him. I wouldn't just tell him to ignore it. Her reaction is weird on so many levels. She knew. Now the question is, does she value her friend being a cheater more than your relationship? Or does the friend have something on her? Also, I don't mean to pry, but why are you engaged for so long? Like, is the wedding on the horizon? Her reaction was definitely weird as heck. Today I'll talk to her more about this and see where we both stand on the matter. It's okay. We did intend to get married 2 years ago, but then COVID came around, which forced us to postpone our plans. Both our families lived abroad, and both those countries were on the red list, so we decided to postpone until we can fly them here. How long has she been best friends with Betty? And how well do you know the husband and their marriage? They both have been best friends since primary school. We hang out with them 2 to 3 times a month, and have double dates and good stuff like that. I talk to the husband occasionally, but we are not close friends. Your fiancé may feel that you telling the husband means that she told you about it and this would jeopardize her friendship with the wife. Was your fiancé aware of the affair before you told her? She says that she didn't know, but it did not surprise her when I told her this. Her reaction was more like, meh, which could be that she didn't care or that Betty cheats so much that she thought, oh, a new guy again. I don't know which one is it. Next story. My 27 male female friend 27 female who rejected me is upset at my response time as of late. So I had a long heart-to-heart with my best friend and basically told her I loved her, which was true. She told me she wasn't a girl for me and to put my energy elsewhere. We still talk. I did just that. I downloaded a dating app and I'm talking to a girl who's very interested in me, so I'm giving her the same energy and attention back. I play video games with my friends or go to the gym every single day on top of working. As a result, I don't have a lot of time to text. I don't want to give my energy and attention to the girl who views me as a romantic option. I always get back to my friend at least once a day, Well, she will randomly stop texting me for over a day when she gets busy. I can tell from her attitude it's pissing her off. Like, she just expects me to reply instantly when she doesn't give me the same respect back. Why do I need to drop what I'm doing because she decided to break her radio silence she randomly gives me at an inopportune time? I'm a pretty easygoing and friendly guy, but she's honestly getting on my nerves. And I can tell I'm getting on hers. Should I just tell her I don't want to text anymore if this is the vibe? I'm not playing games with her. I just don't have time to text her sometimes because they are long messages. I play Warzone with my friends, and if I see the girl I'm dating texted me, I'll always answer her message first. She ignored me all of Friday. So I got back to her later on Saturday since I was drinking with the boys Friday, and haven't heard back from her since. Now for the advice. Stop putting so much pressure on this. Just do your thing. Text her when you have time and don't when you don't. Don't make it into a big thing. Alright, thanks. So if she messages me back tomorrow, I should just reply when I have a chance? Yes. This is how friendship works. You're living separate busy lives. Don't intentionally ignore her, but you can only text when you're not busy. This is basic stuff. Don't be dramatic about it. You don't owe her an explanation. She needs to understand boundaries. If she addresses it, play it off in a playful manner. Thanks. I have a group chat with my friends, and sometimes I'll answer a question like, "You guys have room for me on the team?" She'll take notice of my Facebook last active activity. You had said that you can tell that she doesn't like this and never mentioned a specific thing she said. I'm going to assume she hasn't said anything to you directly. If she has an issue, it is her responsibility to say something. It is not your responsibility to read between the lines and guess at what is happening. You can accept what she says at face value and move forward. If she doesn't respond to you for however long, don't assume it's about you. Just let her do her. Focus on you. I've known her for more than half my life. She isn't very direct and will never say what's on her mind, but she'll change how she acts. We don't hang out anymore because her boyfriend hates me. Her fault. He hated me before I even knew of him because she used me to make him jealous and kept me as a backup option, and I'm not comfortable having that in my life. It's a boundary she respects. But she's acting very different lately and not texting me back. She plays games. Now for the last story. I think my boyfriend is in love with his girl best friend and is in denial. What should I do? I'm female 24, my boyfriend is male 21. We've been together for about 4 months. He has had a best friend for 11 years who was also my best friend for 3 years when we met through college. She set me up with my current boyfriend now. I've always had a weird gut feeling in regards to their relationship. They used to have sleepovers, go on movie dates, dinner dates, etc. When we got into a relationship, his girl best friend got angry with me because they no longer did those things which I find inappropriate considering he's now in a relationship. So she no longer talks to me, however, didn't take anything out on him. After seeing her reactions, I asked to set healthy boundaries, such as types of conversations you guys should be having, where it is appropriate and when it is appropriate for you guys to be hanging out, etc. Every time she comes up, my boyfriend gets very defensive. He has seen her addressed. He always prioritizes her feelings over mine, texts her and harasses her at hours such as 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. He has blown off our dinner plans for her before just to hang out. After telling him how I felt about my gut feeling and how it's making me a little uncomfortable, he looked at me dead in the face and said, "I don't care. I'm never gonna stop being friends with her, so you need to deal with it." Which I never ask him to not be. I simply ask for healthy boundaries to be set in our relationship, because their relationship is a little too close. He continues to gaslight me day in and day out, saying that she's like a sister, which could possibly be true, but given the actions that I've been seeing, makes me wary. He also has lied to me saying that he was getting ready to come see me, but he was actually hanging out with her. Something in my gut is telling me that he is in love with her. It is either in denial or simply does not want to confess his feelings because he knows she doesn't have the same for him, and he will destroy that friendship. It's hard for me to move forward with him when he keeps prioritizing her over me. She recently stopped talking to him, and he's been blowing up her phone every day since, saying that he will go and move mountains to reach her, and that she can block him on everything and he'll go and find her MySpace just to message her. I would really appreciate some advice and input on the situation in regards to what I should do. Why are you still with him? For what reason are you tormenting yourself? He plainly focuses on her over you and expressed in your face. For what reason are you remaining while at the same time realizing that he esteems his closest companion more than you? Simply leave the relationship before he cheats or leaves you for her. They both sound in denial. Tell him you never ask him to stop being friends with her, but the context of their relationship is not friends even if they don't see it. Prioritizing anyone over their significant other, cuddling, lying to the significant other, are all signs they're more than friends, unless he is doing the exact same things, and at the same frequency with his guy friends as he does with her. Then move on, as you can never be in a good position between them. You gotta leave this dude and his girlfriend alone. Don't be a second option. But I am the girlfriend. She's the girl best friend who keeps overstepping boundaries that he keeps allowing it. He always prioritizes his girl best friend's feelings over mine. That's my point. Break up with him. Do you seriously want to be second in your relationship? You know he puts her first and you deserve better. The longer you stay, the worse it's going to be for you. He has an unhealthy obsession, it sounds like. I thought about breaking up with him all morning. It's getting to the point where every time I think of this situation, I am getting physically sick. I just keep thinking maybe I am wrong. It may be she's like a sister to him, which is why I created a post, to hopefully get everyone's opinions on if I'm crazy and overthinking, or if I'm simply right and my gut feeling is trying to tell me something. I'm I AAL for calling the cops on my cousin after she locked herself in my baby's room and wouldn't come out. I, 24, had my son 2 months ago. I live at home with only my mother, and I'm pretty protective of him since he came out premature and his father walked out. Now for the context. I have an almost 16-year-old cousin who we'll call Laura. We both grew up together and were very close. I spent a lot of time with Laura, and as she got older, it got easier to hang out with her by the time I became an adult. As for Laura, she really likes my son. She's always asking if she can see him and hold him, and I always had to refuse in the beginning due to how weak and at risk for things he used to be. She would sometimes get an attitude or look at me weird, but never did anything else and listened. Now that he's older, I've let her come by sometimes to see him. Earlier this week, my mom was out of the house and Laura was sent over so that she could deliver some stuff for me. I had spent about 45 minutes trying to get him to go to sleep, and when Laura got there, it had taken me another 10 minutes before he did. Laura had asked if she could hold him while he slept, and I told her no before putting him in his crib and leaving. I had decided to start making food in that time, and Laura went somewhere else in the house. I didn't really care since she's family. About 15 minutes later, I heard my son crying, and when I went to go check on him, I found the door locked. And I could hear Laura inside trying to calm my son down. I told her to open the door, but she refused and told me she had it handled. I started trying to force the door open, but failed. I started panicking and slamming on the door, and at that time, Laura somehow had forced the dresser in my son's room onto the door. At this point, I was nearly having a panic attack, and Laura was yelling she could help my son, even though he was screaming and crying as well. I called my mom begging her for help. She had told me she would call Laura's mom and that I should call the cops. I did as she told and told them of my situation, and they came soon after. They came in, told Laura to open the door, and when she refused again, even with my son screaming, they took the door off its hinges and went inside and fought with Laura for my son. My mind muddles a bit here because of how much of a mess I was, but they eventually grabbed my son from her arms after they found her in the corner of the room on the floor with him. Laura's parents and the police took Laura someplace else, and I took my son to the hospital to see if he was fine. Now, my mom's side of the family is telling me I should consider pressing charges on Laura, while Laura's family is livid with me for calling the police on her, and that calling her mother was enough. I'm really torn between it. On one hand, I'm upset with her that she did that to me and my son, but on the other hand, I feel bad for calling the police on her. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You should press charges. What she did was terrible. But also, this girl clearly needs help. Therapy. Lots of it. It's odd because before all this, Laura genuinely seemed okay. She always had a soft spot for babies like I do, but she never once growing up displayed this sort of behavior. Or at least in front of me. Something like this can happen fast. All it needs is one trigger. For me, it was one word in a therapy session, and boom, the psychotic episode blew up on me. I was medicated. I was in therapy. It happened anyway. Wow, I didn't even really know something like that was really possible. I'm sorry something like that happened to you. And thank you for educating me on this. I'll be sure to take that into consideration if I end up going through with everything. Not AAL. And if I were you, I'd consider getting a restraining order. I actually never even considered that until I read your comment. And I may just do that now. Thank you for the suggestion. Do it, OP. Do it now. Get a restraining order, press charges, and do not drop them. She needs to learn that what she did was unacceptable and very irresponsible. Also, keep her away from your child. Laura has an unhealthy obsession with your son, and I fear she might try to kidnap him. Not AAL. She's 16, not 4. She should know better. Honestly, a restraining order might not be a bad idea. It's a pretty unhealthy obsession with your baby if Laura was willing to fight law enforcement over it. Also, that girl needs some psychological help. What on earth would possess someone to do something so dangerous and stupid? That's what I want to know as well. Growing up, she was never really like this. She's always loved babies and small children. And yes, very little she fought to have the baby in her arms, but she didn't ever force her way like this. It almost feels like it was out of nowhere. Now for the next story. Am I the AAL for not telling my former best friend that I'm married? Some background. Me, 25 female, and my former best friend Eve, 25 female, were friends for 6 years. We met in high school and then went to college together, and we were very close for that time. Around 3 years ago, we had a huge falling out. The details aren't important, but the falling out wasn't over anything petty. She deeply hurt my feelings. Had been doing so for a while, and when explained to her why I was hurt, Eve wasn't remorseful at all. And to this day, I've never gotten an apology. Because of this, I told Eve 3 years ago that I no longer wanted to be friends. We haven't spoken since. Fast forward to last Saturday. I was at the grocery store with my husband and we ran into her. I really didn't want to talk, but I said hello and introduced her to my husband. She looked really shocked and went silent for a minute. She then asked me multiple times if I was being serious about being married, and I said that yes, I was actually married. I told her we got married last year, right before everything shut down. She kind of mumbled a congratulations, and then we went our separate ways. Last night, she sent me a very long email about how upset she was that she never knew I was married, that she wasn't invited to the wedding, that she didn't get to help me pick out a dress, etc. We had talked about how we would be in each other's weddings and all that when we were friends. She was also offended at how I introduced her to my husband. I said, "This is Eve. We went to college together." Maybe that was rude, but I didn't know what to call her, and I didn't want to be like, "This is my ex-best friend," so that's what I went with. She said that she cried all night after she got home because she couldn't believe that I would be so cruel. She also mentioned how pissed she was that she had to find out over a year later. I'm trying to understand her perspective, but at that point when I got married, it had been 2 years of absolutely no contact. I couldn't imagine just calling her up and being like, "Hey, I know we haven't spoken in years, but I'm getting married. Want to come help me plan it?" Plus, she knew how badly she had hurt me. It has never tried to apologize or reconcile. I can kind of see why she's upset. We were friends for a long time, but we weren't friends now and haven't been for a while. I don't think I was in the wrong by not telling her, but I would love some outside opinions. Edit. I saw some comments asking if it was made clear to her that our friendship was over. Yes, I made it very clear 3 years ago that we were not friends anymore. Not AAL. Dude, why are you even entertaining this woman? She only stirs up crap. I wouldn't even be giving her but a second thought. Block her and move on. Hell, if someone I parted on bad terms with and hadn't seen for 2 years invited me to their wedding, I would assume they were fishing for gifts and ignore it. Opie would be in the doghouse with her either way. I feel like former friend is in between a rock and a hard place. She misses Opie and wants her back as friend, but she also never wants to admit that she's done anything wrong and has no plans to make any amends. She may very well be hurt that she wasn't included in Opie's special day when she always thought she would be. But hurt feelings don't erase her horrible personality and selfishness. Not Dayhole. Opie, you're better off. Not Dayhole. I'd wager a guess she is jealous you managed quite well without her. And so instead of apologizing, she's turning it around to blame you for something. Ignore her. Still not your friend. And now she gets to be the victim, which is a much more comfortable role for her. Not Dayhole. If she's not remorseful about what she did, it's possible that to this day she doesn't understand how serious the falling out actually was. If she thinks that you've been overblowing it, and that somehow you're still two best friends amidst a long cold period, I could see why she'd be shocked that you have a husband without her knowing. She seems dense and inconsiderate, but I could understand why she's so stunned if she's really that ignorant. I think this sounds like the most likely answer. She thought they were still kind of friends, or she would come around? Doesn't make Opie the a-hole or anything. Edit. Thanks for everyone's feedback. I've decided I'm not going to respond. I just know it would end in drama, and that's the last thing I want. I know people want to know what happened 3 years ago, but I'm really not comfortable talking about it. It's a very long story, and even though quite a bit of time has passed, it still upsets me to dwell on. It was over something very serious. I think I deserved an apology, but I'm never going to beg for someone to treat me the way I think I should be treated. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying no to donating money to my cousin's wedding? My fiance and I have been working odd jobs along with regular jobs to finance our wedding. Our wedding was set for this year, but we moved it to next year because of COVID. We weren't expecting things to get better and didn't want family to buy flights only to have it cancelled. My cousin got engaged with her fiance towards the end of last year and then set their wedding to the day before ours. That's a whole other story. My cousin then called up all family members, including my parents and myself, to give her around $500, but more if we can afford it, to help them finance their wedding. I told her no because my fiance and I are saving up as much as we can for our wedding next year. I wanted to say because I didn't want to ask family members to help pay for our wedding unless they offered, but didn't want to insult her since I realized that's what she was doing at the moment. So I left that part out, but that's why I didn't end up donating. She then sounded angry and said it was fine, but has been telling family members about it and saying that we are being stingy, especially since our wedding is not this year anymore. My parents did agree to send $500 on their part though, so it's just my fiance and I who said no. Am I the a-hole for saying no? I don't feel like I am, but I've gotten mixed answers from family and friends. Now for the comments. Let me guess. She still expects gifts from the guests, and of course they need to pay for their hotel rooms by themselves? Big fat not day-hole. Not day-hole. This is my thought as well. Don't give in advance, just give them a gift. Edit to add. Recommend suggesting to your parents they give the $500 with a card to make it clear this is their wedding/engagement gift. Example, a gift from us in celebration of your engagement, wedding, and marriage. Alternatively, give them $500, but then start collections for your own wedding at $750. If they don't pony up, start bad-mouthing them to the whole family. How to turn tables. Honestly, the best revenge would be to subject the rest of the family to a repeat performance, since Opie's making them sound not like accomplices, but like fellow victims. Instead, Opie could defend herself. It has come to our attention that cousin has unfortunately been telling everyone that we have declined what we were told was an optional request to help pay for their wedding. That is our choice, but since we've been put in a position to defend it, a few things. 1. We're saving up for a wedding of our own, one we don't feel comfortable soliciting others to pay for. 2. Our wedding was planned first, but cousin didn't volunteer to help pay for it, so naturally we're surprised that we were expected to help pay for hers. 3. Every article we can find on the subject emphasizes how tacky it is to ask for non-parent guests to pay for weddings. Then just Google something like, relative ask pay for wedding, and go from there. If Opie wants revenge. What kind of selfish, entitled whiner even does something like that? Anyone who can't afford to pay for their own damn wedding shouldn't be having a wedding. You're not day-hole, and everyone who actually gives them money's an idiot. Or a small wedding, even just at a courthouse / whatever your local way is. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my manager it's not my problem if nobody can do my job? So some background is needed here. I'm 19 male and have worked at the leisure center in my town since I was 16. It has a gym, a pool, a function room/hall, and a cafe. Up until recently, my job was cleaning the gym and hall and working in/cleaning the cafe, but obviously it's been closed for a while and I've been on furlough. Thing is, my parents' house is very toxic and it reached a point where I had to get out, which I couldn't afford to do on furlough alone. I took on 2 new cleaning jobs to cover my living expenses. The leisure center opened again last week, all apart from the cafe part, and I realized just how much I'd be juggling now between work and uni. Since the 2 new jobs pay significantly better than this one, but I can use all the extra hours I can squeeze in, I elected to stop working in the cafe when it reopens because I think those hours will tip it over into too many territory. I told this to one of the 2 cafe managers and she said that's fine. So the issue. This morning, the other cafe manager messaged me about reopening and stuff, and asking if I'm okay to work the same hours I was before. I replied saying, sorry, I think there's been some missed communication. I told the other manager I won't be working the cafe anymore as I've got 2 other jobs now and it's just too many hours. She was not happy. She began complaining to me that the cafe is short-staffed as is, and they don't have another cleaner on hand to do it. At one point in my life, I'd have folded and said I'd do it. But I'm trying to be better about advocating for myself, so I said, I'm sorry about the inconvenience, but I had my notice okayed and sorting a replacement isn't my problem. She then got upset and called me rude and insolent, and said she's going to report me to the overall general manager of the place for my conduct. I'm really beginning to panic that I'm going to get into big trouble for this, and if I could have handled this better? Am I the a-hole for what I said? Not the a-hole. Sounds like the manager is trying to scare you. You got the okay from the other manager. You did everything right. The manager is just mad that they have to do actual work to find a replacement. I do still work in the leisure center, just not the cafe part. Touch base with your current department manager, just to let them know that the old one is upset you can't do hours for them, but make it very clear you want the hours in the new roles. Why shouldn't you earn more per hour? This right here. Make sure whatever department head of the leisure center you do work for knows the situation. Not the a-hole. She's going to report you? Hilarious. Who to? The director of Hurt Feelings? Not the a-hole. Make sure you have proof that you gave your notice. I definitely do. I submitted it via email, so it's all there. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I'd make her homeless if she didn't leave my wife alone? I, 27 male, have had my mother, 48 female, living in my house since September 2020. My wife, 27 female, gave birth 2 months ago to my son. Ever since my wife and I got married, my mother would make snide remarks at my wife. I was too much of a coward to call it out at first, but I believed, for a while, that it had officially stopped. Besides the unnecessary comments here and there. Edited to add, I stand up for my wife all the time. It's just that for the first year and a half of our relationship, I did cower away. I was afraid to lose my family, but the only family I needed was my wife. My wife and I had very busy schedules, so even though we lived together and were married, we rarely saw each other. She loved her job, but I made a selfish decision to ask her to leave it. She was hesitant, but agreed to it. She still makes money from her small business, but she obviously is now a stay-at-home. My mother ended up losing her home a couple months back. I live the closest and have the biggest home, 10-bedroom, so she came to us. My mother keeps making comments like, she needs a job. She's going to drain you of money? My wife would also come up to me and tell me to not say anything to my mother, that my mother needs somewhere to stay, and that she, my wife, can handle it. I've been in online conferences for the last 2 weeks, so I haven't had much time to spend with my son. For the past 3 days, I haven't had any calls or work to do, so I've been telling my wife to stay in bed and rest so I can look after our son. Yesterday, my wife was asleep in bed when my mother started screaming through our bedroom door, banging on it, calling my wife every name under the sun. When I ran into the corridor, she was screaming like a lunatic. My dogs, Blue Bay Shepherd and Siberian Husky, obviously got very defensive and backed her into a corner. I got into my bedroom and my wife was in the corner of the room crying with her head down. She was terrified. I ran to my mother and said that I'm going to kick her rolled butt to the curb. She wailed that I couldn't do that, but I screamed at her and told her to remember whose house she was in. She started to cry and I told her to pack up and get out by tomorrow. She started screaming, saying she had nowhere to go. I said that she could stay, but if she even looked to wife's direction, I'd kick her onto the street. Now my siblings are saying I'm the a-hole and that I was too aggressive. I say that's total BS because how else was I supposed to react to seeing my wife terrified and scared in a corner? I told them to take her, but they say they don't want her stressing them out. The only reason I think I might be the a-hole is because she seemed scared when I yelled at her. That and because my wife is saying that she doesn't want my family to be mad at her, but I don't care. Now my mother is telling everyone my wife ganged up on her. The only reason I haven't dragged her out yet is because my wife says not to. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your siblings are hypocrites. They don't want their mom to live with them because she would stress them out, but are totally okay with her stressing you and your wife. Exactly. If any family member has a problem with it, then they can take her in. Not the a-hole. I got into my bedroom and my wife was in the corner of the room crying with her head down. She was terrified. If anything, what you did was underreaction to the abuse being hurled at the new mother in her own home. Your wife is being abused and afraid of more mistreatment, which is happening. Your reaction in support of her is everything it should be. Call them out for being toxic to a new mother. Challenge them to change or go low contact. Neither you nor your wife need that. Not the a-hole. She's projecting. You can suck it up all you want, it's up to you. But when anybody, be it mother, dad, or the freaking Pope badmouths your wife, your spine needs to shine. Period. Letting her disrespect your wife only shows that you're okay with it and don't respect your wife either. Your wife is a legend to put up with that for as long as she did, and you're too blind to even see it. Tell the a-hole siblings that you'll relay the message to mother that they are happy to take her in. Let them deal with her attitude instead. Update. She went for a walk, so I grabbed her stuff, threw it in a suitcase, and put it outside. My wife is currently cuddling with our son in bed. Told my brother that if he doesn't get her, she'll be spending the night outside of our padlock-secured gate. My wife has no idea. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that it is her fault that my mom called her the C word? My mom and my wife hate each other. I spent a lot of time feeling like I had to pick my wife before I realized they are equally at fault and I should not have taken anyone's side. My mom babysat my kids the other night so we could have a date night. When we got home, my mom was asleep and my wife freaked out about how irresponsible that was. But a couple of important things. 1, the kids were also asleep and it was almost 11. 2, my stepdad was there in the wake. 3, she was just resting with her head on his lap, so probably not even in a deep sleep. My wife screamed at my mom and called her a witch. My mom said my wife was acting crazy and then said, "Oh my god, you are such a C." My wife freaked out because that word triggers her and told them to get out. I thanked my mom for babysitting and hugged her, so we left on good terms, but my wife said that I should have defended her. I said she overreacted, didn't thank my mom, and if you call someone a witch, you might get called a name you don't like in return. My wife called my mother-in-law in the morning, and my mother-in-law lectured me about how my mom is irresponsible and the kids could have died, which I think is crazy dramatic. My wife and I sleep every night, and if one of the kids needs us, we wake up. My wife said that I should call my mom and lay down boundaries about how she can speak to her, but I said it is her fault for calling her a witch. OMG, you let your wife talk to your mom like that? Everyone sucks here. Your wife for treating your mother so abusively, and you for enabling it. Your mom is just a victim, as are your kids if they are witnessing this. Not sure what your mom and wife are like in other situations, but in this post your mom did literally nothing wrong. Your wife found a reason to nag, called your mom a terrible name after she was doing you a favor, And now by not shutting it down, you've enabled this crap to the point where your mother-in-law is lecturing you about your mom? Are you just never supposed to fall asleep then? Normally, I'm all about partners supporting each other, but your wife is on a different level. Like, I'm packing up and staying at my parents' house for a couple of weeks kind of level. This right here is the answer. You're the a-hole for letting your wife abuse your mother, who in this story did nothing wrong. Would you let one of your kids scream at your wife and call her names before hugging them and saying you guys are on good terms? Your parents are disappointed in you for allowing them to be abused, and sad for your kids living in this negative environment because they will pick up on the tension with your wife. The real question is, how much damage are you going to do to the kids and with your family before you decide to address the problems? I'm not jumping to leave your wife, but if you guys can't talk and this behavior continues, it's going to be ugly long term, and damage is being done now that may not be repairable. So, I'm a mom and didn't realize I was supposed to never sleep again. How does your wife handle never sleeping? Not the a-hole. Look, I hate my mother-in-law. Know what I do? I don't ask for favors from people I hate. Your wife is an a-hole. She hates your mother but takes favors from her, and then attacks as soon as she thinks she found a reason to. I don't see why your mother will babysit since it will benefit your irrational wife. Also, the stepfather was present and awake. In what reality would the mom be derelict in her duties? To me, the wife was spoiling for a fight, given their history, and she was grasping onto any excuse, however unreasonable it may be. Your position sounds reasonable, but wow. Can't imagine family members talk to each other like that. It seems very immature for both of these women. This kind of thing will affect the kids, and not in a good way. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my ex's emergency number to the woman pregnant with his niece? For context, my ex's married brother had an affair and got his mistress Olivia pregnant. Their family relies heavily on my ex to fill all of their problems, so has been the person to deal directly with Olivia and her family. I know all of this because my ex and I share a toddler together, so we have been living together during the lockdowns to make childcare easier and to work on things between us. My ex has an emergency number, which he only gives to a select few people. He only gave it to me after he found out I was pregnant. He made it clear I was only supposed to use the number in absolute emergencies, and not just because he wasn't responding fast enough on his regular number. So, my ex is on a business trip currently and isn't supposed to come back for at least another week. He's barely responded to my messages, so I'm assuming he's very busy. Olivia and her sister showed up to his house and demanded to see him. I explained he wasn't here, and she should call him if it's something important. She said he wasn't replying, and it was an emergency. I messed up by suggesting she call him on his emergency number since he responds a lot faster that way. They asked me for the number, but I didn't want to give it because he's super strict about that number, and I wasn't sure if he would get upset if I gave it out to people, so I refused. I offered to pass along a message if she would tell me what she wanted, but she told me it was a private family matter. They tried to convince me to give the number to them, but I kept refusing, and they eventually left after telling me I was an insensitive B-word, and that I didn't understand what it was like for Olivia, who is about to become a young struggling single mother. I felt bad after they left, so I told my sister about what happened, and she told me I should have just given her the number even if my ex got annoyed, since it might really be an emergency. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Why couldn't Olivia hit up the baby daddy for help or the emergency number? Best to stay out of other people's affairs. Pity you mentioned the secret number at all. He blocked her and won't speak to her at all since everything came out. Oh dear. The situation sounds quite unpleasant and Jerry Springer-like. Best avoid them in future if possible. Not the a-hole. Olivia isn't his problem, and he should probably stay out of that mess. If he wanted them to have the emergency number, they would have it. And if it was really an emergency, they would have told you what was going on so you could call. They would not have cared so much about privacy. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It wasn't your number to give. And I can't think of a true emergency that needs baby daddy's brother. Medical emergencies can be handled by doctors, etc. Are you sure it's the brother's baby? It seems weird to have your brother be the go-between and have a pregnant girl show up on his doorsteps on his brother's behalf. Yes, I'm sure. If the baby was his, he would take responsibility. Also, this isn't the first time he's had to fix things for his brother. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for lashing out on my husband for his reaction to our baby gender reveal? So, me, female 29, and my husband, male 33, have been married for 2 years. I'm now pregnant. First time, and it's been difficult. I have anemia, but I'm getting treatment. We went for the doctor's appointment to find out the gender of our baby. My husband was excited, although he repeatedly said he guaranteed it was a boy with no evidence to back it up. We entered the doctor's office and he didn't stop feeling nervous, making me nervous too. Once the doctor said it was a girl, my husband's face went red. He stared at the doctor, then started asking if she was sure 15 times. He asked if she was sure this wasn't a recording footage of her previous patient, which made me feel embarrassed because this was a dumb question. He has zero idea how ultrasounds works. The doctor laughed, but he asked her to check again, and even tried to act smart to point out that it's actually a boy, but the doctor got it wrong. I told him to stop, but he started lashing out blatantly, saying he wasn't expecting this, and was in fact disappointed with the results. I felt mad, especially after he told the doctor we will be seeing another doctor, then get back to her to tell her she got it wrong, because he guaranteed it was a boy. I waited till we got home. I lashed at him and told him he got no right to speak to the doctor like that and waste her time by getting her to check repeatedly. I said he embarrassed me, and he lashed back saying he has a right to express how he felt and that he was disappointed. We argued. Then he went to call his mom to tell her, although I asked him to wait to do it together. I called him childish for immediately calling his mom and getting her to text me, like it's my fault. I told him I'm going to stay at my mom's for 2 days because this is too much. He asked, how is it childish for me to call my mom and vent a little, but totally okay when you pack to go stay with your mom for 2 days? I was speechless. What response could I possibly have for this? He started texting saying ultrasound wasn't a good idea, but he'll just wait till our baby is born to find out since tests can't be 100% sure anyway. He said he wasn't trying to blame me for being pregnant with a girl, but how I reacted to his reaction. He planned to have 1 kid and that's it, preferably a boy, but it didn't happen, so he was disappointed. Again argued that I overreacted and mishandled his gender disappointment. My sister said I was wrong because his reaction was understandable and that he's free to express how he felt, so I shouldn't try to control his reaction. We're from Canada, by the way, if it's relevant. Not a a-hole. I know people throw around sexist a lot, but if someone is this disappointed about having a daughter instead of a son, they're sexist. Also, you shouldn't have to leave, especially while very pregnant, just because he is being an a-hole. Also, your child being a daughter instead of a son is because his sperm gave the X chromosome, not Y. He could use an 8th grade biology lesson too. You're right, absolutely. He has an argumentative personality and is always ready to make a big deal out of everything. He told me the problem is that I shouldn't try to control how he reacts and that he has the right to express his feeling. And I'm not against that, but I think he's being unbearable with his behavior. There are things that he seems to be a bit ignorant about, but that I would not excuse, of course. He's throwing a hissy fits and insulting medical professionals because of his own sexism and ignorance. But he's pretending that the problem is somehow your response? Not an a-hole. This isn't an argumentative personality. This is a whole bunch of red flags at once. How do you think he'll respond once your daughter is born? He needs to accept that the baby is a girl before the birth, or else he might react extremely bad. I feel like he only reined in his anger because he is hoping that the doctor was wrong. Wow, does he not realize that his sperm determined the gender of the baby? It's his fault he's having a girl. Gasp. He is an ass and needs to get his crap together. It's one thing to have a little disappointed, let down when you get yourself hyped for one sex or the other. It's completely over the top to do what he did. Not an a-hole. Unless he can control the X and Y in his sperm, it is not his fault. It's nobody's. It is not even a fault. Run while you still can. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.